I don't know, man. I like that the Leafs are doing so well, but I worry that fans are, maybe getting a little too excited.
Come on, Leafs fans would never do such a thing. What do you want to talk about in this video?
I mean, the game and the goals and stuff like that. What did you have in mind?
I was thinking James Reimer, Canada's next Olympic goalie. Look at it, finally! Good old Canadian player.
Country!
Deal with it.
Elon Smash!
Owen Grabowski.
GTFO.
I got it from afar. Leafs win 4-2 over the New Jersey Devils. In a game the Leafs really had no business winning, but I don't care. One thing that advanced stats say, or not even that advanced stats, is that the Leafs their record is way better than it should be. But then you look at last season and the Leafs were like 6th place into February with pretty terrible goaltending for the most part. Then not just one of the wheels fell off, you go for a little quick pit stop, every one of the wheels fell off. What if this team is just the same as last year's, but slightly improved and with better goaltending, more consistent goaltending? And sometimes that means your goalie's got to completely save your ass. And while it's unrealistic to expect your goalie, whether it's Scrivens, Reimer, or who else is in net, to do that all the time, the Leafs kind of deserve one. And you need some luck too. Ponikarovsky missing a wide open net when the Leafs led it 1-0. And by the way, Kadri scored again. And it's important to, keep the expectations realistic, right? But Kadri's success is good in so many ways. First of all, given the Leafs' draft history, especially in the first round, you looked at him and you're like, really? Another bust? Another guy who 2 years in, alright, just wait, he's still young. 3 years in, he's still developing, he's working on some things. 4 years, alright, we need to hurry this guy up. 5 years, not another one! The season's still young, but it looks like he's arrived. And perhaps more importantly, he can be a hero for a group of hockey fans that haven't really had one before. Is he going to slow down a bit? Probably. His shooting percentage is too high, he's getting all the right bounces, but it's still good that he's succeeding. And with what he's been through the past couple seasons, he probably deserves a few bounces. And Carlisle, after the game, called out Kadri a little bit for his play before things turned good for the Leafs in this game. But don't rag on Carlisle too much for that. It was a pretty tame criticism, and he's just trying to, I guess, tamper expectations. And you might be saying, well, why doesn't he criticize Colton Orr and Fraser McLaren and that whole stupid line? They were on the ice for both Devils goals and it was their fault. Well, here's the thing about that. It's not weird that the fourth line sucks. And other than Jay McClement, who I think is right with JVR in terms of just changing this team, what he's done, I hate that line. I understand wanting to have them in the lineup certain games so they can bully teams around and push them around. I don't think you need those guys against the Devils. On a bad night, the Devils are too smart and too skilled of a team to let those guys push them around. And guys like David Clarkson are tough and they're going to try to push their way in front of the net, but a guy like Phaneuf or Fraser or someone can take them on if they want. And speaking of gooning and fights, might as well talk about it. Mike Brown traded to the Edmonton Oilers. And I know what you're thinking. That's exactly the kind of guy the Oilers need. No. Steve Tambellini is... wow. And that's an interestingly structured deal. So the Leafs get a 4th rounder from Mike Brown, and knowing the Oilers, it's going to be an early 4th rounder. So we're talking between 91st and 100th overall. That's James Reimer territory. But if the Oilers make the playoffs, it goes up to a 3rd. And one thing I don't know with that deal is if the Oilers make the playoffs this year or next, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure. But if they do make the playoffs, it'll be like a mid-3rd rounder. So like 75th, 80th. Either way, the Leafs get a decent mid-draft pick for a guy who, fan favorite and all, but he wasn't playing. Also, it's a 4th rounder in 2014, but this is supposed to be a really deep draft, so maybe that's the sort of pick you use to move up. This has been one of the most all-over-the-place LFRs in a long time, hasn't it? So let's hit the main points. Mike Brown got traded. Kadri's so sick right now. Optimus Rhyme, all systems go. Kadri's helped bring Clark MacArthur back to life.
And it'll lengthen my life if you stop pointing that stupid thing in my face.
And maybe the Leafs should be losing, but they're not, and I like that. Some Linkskis in the underbar to talk about. As always, the Leafs Nation postgame blog. I also wrote about Mike Brown getting traded, mustache tears. And if you haven't checked it out already, I highly recommend going to the Underbar to check out the podcast pilot that we shot last week. Picture me, but in like really high definition and talking to other people with beer. Many of you have asked, and we're not doing one this week. We need to have some meetings, and we're trying to sell this thing. And you can definitely help us sell it by watching it and giving us your feedback. Until then, Kessel's finally got a goal on home ice. The Leafs are 14-9. Life's pretty good.